One time, I saw Rachel Maxey needle felting, so I went and bought needle felting equipment. And that's the intro to this video. Let's move on. I began this project by felting a ball of wool, but I quickly realized that idea wasn't going to work, given how much wool I would need so the ball could fit in the palm of my hand. From this, I decided to make the body with scrap fabric, limiting the felting wool for just the fur of the furry wart. I tested felting onto fabric and then studied sewing patterns. At first I thought about using this 4-panel sphere sewing pattern I used for Jay the Jetix cat and Hisuian Voltorb, but I felt the sewing pattern clashed with the face of the wart. Well, there's a sentence I didn't think I'd say. So I went onto Pinterest and found this pattern, which brings me to the mock-up stage. I used newspaper to both test the pattern and see what the face of the wart would be like. I was happy with everything, so it was on to sewing. And spoiler alert, this is where things start to suck. I used this iron-on adhesive to make the face, but I tried to be clever about it. I cut out a hole in the yellow fabric and ironed it onto the brown fabric. It didn't work out. The fabric moved when ironing, so the shape had warped, and when I added some zigzag stitching to guarantee nothing frayed, my sewing machine, for reasons beyond my knowledge, jammed, resulting in the zigzag stitches looking more like a grid pattern. But far from it from me to be wasteful. I ironed on the bit of yellow fabric I cut out and made this the back of the plushie. Also, you can see where some ink from the pen I used to mark out where to cut the adhesive bled onto the fabric. Don't mingle water and ink, kids. The second time around actually worked. The face was ironed to the body instead of the upper way around, no ink got onto anything it shouldn't, and my sewing machine didn't jam. Isn't it amazing how well things go when you don't overthink them? Could you imagine if I did that again in this project? Spoiler alert, I do. I'd then adhered the rest of the face, but had begun to worry that the ink I used to mark out the sewing pattern would bleed, so I put the wart in the washing machine. This was a bad idea. Almost all the pieces were now peeling off at the edges, and the teeth were just gone. To think I could have avoided this if I just used tailor's chalk. You know, a piece of equipment I actually already had readily available when making this plushie. But the surface was finished, so I stuffed it, making sure to include the felted ball I made when starting this project. Because I spent money on it, so it got used, gosh darn it! Now for the felting process. I bought more wool, felting needles, a handle for the felting needles, and it didn't work. Yeah, this was the point I decided to quit as the wool wasn't bonding to the fabric, and the areas where a bond did form weren't exactly a solid one. Seriously, it shouldn't be this easy to remove the wool from the fabric. I went back to testing and the wool did mat there. I just assume the filling is too firm for the felting needles. Therefore, the wool couldn't mingle with the surface fabric. And this is why I decided to admit defeat and move on. Well, that and I broke a felting needle, or two. Also, something I realized whilst making this video, leaving long strands of felting wool on this plushie would be awful, as it could just come off regardless of how well attached to the fabric it is. Now for the face. I should have used a combination of applique and embroidery for the face instead of using iron-on adhesive. But you know what? The deterioration of the face is what I get for looking for any excuse to use leftover materials from my more phenomenal dress form. I said I kept overthinking, didn't I? So yeah, I straight up failed on this one, but maybe you like something about this plushie. Maybe you liked seeing me try my hand at felting. Or maybe you're just a sadist who read the title of this video and wanted to hear a tale of someone suffering at their own hand. If you are in the third option, I like your style. But regardless, I would appreciate it if you liked this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, share it with your friends, follow me on social media, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!